I talked earlier about the heart element in a previous video, and this kind of leading to the topic of our own human compass, if you want to call it something, the natural drive of our nature to fulfill something. We cannot be quite sure what that thing is that we are to fulfill. However, we do know that if we put um, a seed in the right environment, it will grow. And through its growth, maybe then its purpose will be unfolded. Maybe it will seed again, maybe it will bring forth a beautiful flower, maybe it will just filter the air so others can breathe. We're not quite sure. However, we do know when we do this, we get a greater expression of the thing itself containing the nature. So, that all being said, this heart element, the thing that selects an experience for us, this thing best being reflected in our external passions, because in that way it has that the heart element in it, showing a unique importance to us of that thing. So people might find this in the arts, they might find it in business, they might find it in personal cultivation, they might find it in any different kind of purpose in life. And as they follow that path and they put their energy in the way of focusing on the refinement of themselves, so therefore they can be the best at this thing, we can see that there would be many paths to the same outcome. This outcome being an enrichment of oneself that impacts people externally, that then impacts that person to be able to see more of life as they go through it. We might ask ourselves in the reverse way, why is somebody not content with doing very little? And if they are content with doing very little, is this from a place of a kind of ignorance, the lack of taking on life, or is it from the place of seeing life as it is and therefore choosing to do very little, let's say externally or materially, but focusing then on the internal and then the choice of action and making that very purposeful? This would be the question to apply to that scenario. So we can see then that for some reason there is this kind of internal movement, this navigation towards something greater than what we were born, in the sense of realizing the full miracle of birth and life. And in that way, we have pressure, the way that life tends to correct us when we're going in a wrong direction, which can be pressure in the sense of stress. If we're feeling stressed, this generally will say that we're misusing some element of ourself in the way that we're taking on some problem. This might suggest to us that we don't have the prerequisites to take on that problem, and therefore further growth is needed. Or it might simply be saying that that is not the right path for you. If it leads to the destruction of the body, the mind, or disorientation of emotions, the feeling of uncertainty in the way of direction, then we must say that something is off. Right? If you try to use a rock to float in the ocean, you'll quickly realize that that is not the right thing. However, we have a lot more emotional feelings about how we do things, so it seems to be not so clear to us that what we're holding on to is actually the thing that's making stuff difficult for us. So we have to then use that as opposed to something being negative, the stress itself, we have to use it for its positive. This meaning that there is, on the other side of negative, a place for growth. And in that way, making it easier for us to navigate life. If we hold on too hard to the material things, we will have the negative effects on the body of material things. And what that does, if we hold on to things highly that are spiritually only, we will also seem to fall away from life and be living in something that is not very much tangible, and then we feel a kind of loss of self, a loss of purpose, or a a complete amalgamation into somebody else's purpose and not our own, and therefore we are not living our lives. In this way, again, we're reflected that change or a balance is needed between those two halves of what is considered being human. And if we follow a passion, the passion will at least bring us towards a refinement of self. And this refinement of self will bring us closer to the environment in which we will thrive. Now, this environment, unlike the average person might think, that this environment is all holed up of all these good, positive, fun feelings that only make us happy. This is on the contrary. We know that a challenge creates the need for growth. And in that way, life will give us challenges, essentially in the way of saying it's time to grow. You will need new things to fulfill your next step on your journey. And these things will generally be pointed out in the areas that we're most likely frustrated. And if we use those elements, again, not to denote something negative, but to denote a kind of bouncing off of this wall, the negative wall, to go towards the positive wall, to then find what the center is, the point of least strain and growth, in the way of still learning the negative lessons without going through all the challenges associated with that, and still enjoying the positives in our experience and not having to have the extreme reflection of positivity. So a party, a birthday, a high external experience to signify to ourselves that we are moving in a right direction. There is always a more subtle version of both that kind of keeps us more centered in who we are. And in this centering, we're able to grow more, let's say, united in a way of moving forward without the bouncing back off of each wall. I think that is something to keep in mind. And self-care in its expression is this thing trying to orient the person around what it feels like being in the center. We do not specifically create a change to have a specific outcome. However, we do try to create an environment that supports an outcome. That outcome is up to the person to understand themselves, and when they come back to the self-care professional, guidance again is needed for that. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.